Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise to get straight to the insights that matter most. We hear a lot about artificial intelligence and machine learning revolutionizing medtech, and, well, they absolutely are. Incredible diagnostic power, therapeutic precision. It's happening. But for quality, regulatory, and risk professionals like you, there's always that critical question lurking. What happens when these sophisticated tools don't perform as expected? Today, we're digging deep into the landscape of artificial intelligence and machine learning-enabled device recalls. We've pulled together comprehensive reports to give you the top-line analysis right away. And the takeaway. While the total number of recalls isn't maybe overwhelmingly frequent, the patterns they reveal are absolutely critical. We're seeing clear vulnerabilities in software design and, frankly, some surprising significant gaps in clinical validation that really demand our attention.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And understanding these trends, it isn't just about ticking compliance boxes, is it? It's really about proactively anticipating future risks, safeguarding patients who rely on these innovations, and ultimately strengthening your organization's whole approach to this rapidly evolving tech. We'll uncover exactly where these vulnerabilities lie and, crucially, what proactive steps you as a stakeholder can take.
Okay, let's unpack this. First, let's paint a clear picture of the landscape we're talking about. We're focusing on FDA-cleared artificial intelligence and machine learning-enabled devices. And these aren't, niche gadgets. They represent some of the most critical diagnostic and therapeutic tools in healthcare today. Think about the heavy hitters: radiology CAD software, MRI systems, ultrasound, CT systems, radiation therapy planning devices, specialized analyzers too. These are modalities many used for decades now, sort of supercharged with artificial intelligence and machine learning features, really integrated heavily in just the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here is not just the sophistication, but the sheer volume and criticality. As of September 2025, the FDA has cleared or approved an impressive 12,247 artificial intelligence and machine learning-enabled devices. That spans 155 distinct product codes. Our analysis really zeroed in on the top 30 codes. Those alone represent about 83% of all those submissions. And these are not trivial systems. We're talking high criticality applications where an error could directly delay, or worse, misguided diagnosis, or even compromise therapy. The stakes are just incredibly high.
Right. And we're seeing some familiar names dominating this space, aren't we? The titans of medtech. GE Healthcare, Siemens Healthineers, Philips, Canon, Elekta, Varian, Research, Change Healthcare. They're spearheading this transformation, so naturally they're also at the forefront of these recall insights. Okay, now, let's get straight to the numbers. The hard data from our analysis. Out of this, large pool of devices we examined, we identified 38 distinct recall events. And these were spread across 8 specific product codes. It might seem like a relatively small number given the total volume, but the details matter.
Indeed they do. And what immediately jumps out, especially for quality, regulatory, and risk professionals, is the classification of these recalls. The vast majority, 36 events, were categorized as Class 2 recalls. We found just 2 Class 3 events, and critically, 0 Class 1 recalls.
0 Class 1 is definitely good news in terms of immediate severe risk.
Absolutely. It means we're not seeing situations with a reasonable probability of serious adverse health consequences or death directly linked in these recalls. But the prevalence of Class 2, it demands significant attention. These are situations where use may cause temporary or medically reversible health consequences, or where the probability of serious harm is remote. But, for QRR professionals, remote doesn't mean non-existent, and temporary can still mean a profound impact on patient care and trust.
And the scale of impact varied wildly too, right? That really underlines the potential ripple effect.
Oh, massively. We saw units affected ranging from literally a single device in one case.
Just one?
Just one. All the way up to a staggering 171,322 ultrasound transducers in a single recall event.
Wow. 171,000. Imagine the logistics of that for the teams involved. Patient contact, replacements.
Exactly. And currently, 20 of these recalls have been officially terminated, issues resolved. But 18 remain open or are still being classified. So these aren't just historical footnotes. Some challenges are ongoing.
Okay, so we know the numbers, we know the classes. But here's where it gets really interesting for us. What are the actual specific reasons? Why are these highly advanced artificial intelligence and machine learning-enabled devices being recalled? What's going wrong under the hood?
Well, the recurring themes really provide a critical roadmap for anyone in quality, regulatory, or risk. They highlight both the unique challenges of artificial intelligence, but also, maybe surprisingly, some persistent foundational issues in medical device quality. So the leading causes. First, and perhaps most expectedly, we saw software and algorithmic miscalculations.
The AI part itself.
Precisely. These were prominent. They led directly to some serious clinical consequences, things like incorrect dose calculations in radiation therapy planning. I mean, a critical error in oncology. Errors in cardiac function estimation, potentially misguiding heart treatment decisions. And then issues like image orientation or measurement errors, which can just fundamentally distort the diagnostic picture. For instance, one Class 2 recall, product code QIH88101. An unintended bug allowed extraneous video frames to slip in. This led to incorrect auto-EF and IQS estimates. It only affected 15 systems, but think about cardiac diagnostics. Precision is everything. A miscalculation could lead down a totally wrong clinical path.
Makes perfect sense, the brain of the device misfiring. What about issues related to the data itself? Was that a factor?
Absolutely. That's the second major category, data integrity issues. These are fundamental problems, really. They can undermine the reliability of any system, artificial intelligence or not. Examples included patient images being misfiled under the wrong record.
Ooh, nightmare scenario.
Total nightmare for patient ID and care continuity. Or issues where studies had missing or incomplete images, making accurate diagnosis impossible. Take another Class 2 recall, LNH34207. A software issue caused images from one patient to get placed into another patient's record. This affected 96 units. For a QRR professional, that immediately flags concerns about audit trails, system access, data handling. Basics, really, but critical.
It's almost ironic, isn't it? With all this advanced tech, sometimes it's the fundamentals that trip things up. Are we still seeing traditional hardware failures too? Or is it all software now?
That's an excellent point, and it brings us to our third category, traditional device issues. So yes, hardware and mechanical failures. The answer is a resounding yes. These problems persist. It's not just the AI bit causing recalls. We still see issues like CT table bolts loosening, creating instability during scans, flat panel detectors failing to lock securely, or even magnetic trolley wheels causing hazards in an MRI suite. There was a Class 2 recall, JAK 79207, initiated because CT table bolts could actually loosen. It affected 6 units, but instability during a CT scan. Not good. It's a powerful reminder that the physical integrity of the device itself remains absolutely paramount. Brilliant software won't help if the hardware fails.
Right, the nuts and bolts still matter. So a mix of new and old challenges amplified by the artificial intelligence context. What was the final common reason?
The fourth common reason we identified was labeling and approval problems. These are often more regulatory missteps than technical malfunctions, but they carry significant risk for manufacturers. This includes things like releasing unapproved software versions. A new iteration goes out without the necessary FDA clearance.
Like skipping a step.
Exactly. For instance, the Logicon Caries Detector v5.0 was released without FDA approval. That led to a Class 2 recall MYN 70836, affecting 825 units. Other issues involved incorrect grid selection guides in biopsy devices, which could lead to procedural errors. It just highlights the ongoing importance of stringent change control, clear regulatory pathways for software updates, and, well, making sure what goes out the door has the proper approvals. Regulatory hygiene, essentially.
Okay, so we've dissected the what and the why. Now, for you listening, the quality, regulatory, and risk professionals, what are the bigger trends here? What do these patterns tell us about the unique risks and vulnerabilities in this specific market for artificial intelligence and machine learning-enabled devices?
This is where we uncover some truly aha moments, I think. Insights that really underscore the unique challenges. There's a separate, robust study by Lee and colleagues. They looked at 950 artificial intelligence and machine learning-enabled devices, and it highlights some critical patterns that amplify risk. First, there's a significant issue with early recalls. A really startling finding. 79 recalls, that's 43.4% of all the recalls they studied, occurred within the first 12 months of device clearance.
Within the first year? Almost half.
Almost half, within a year of market entry. Now compare that. This rate is approximately double the rate reported for all traditional 510K devices. So it raises a crucial question for QRR folks. Is the current 510K process, which relies heavily on substantial equivalence, really equipped to catch these unique performance failures of artificial intelligence tech before they hit the market? It suggests, maybe, a potential gap in pre-market vigilance for these specific technologies.
That's a stark figure, double the rate. What do you think is fundamentally different? Why the early failures post-clearance?
Well, it often comes down to the iterative nature of artificial intelligence and machine learning, perhaps, and maybe an underestimation of how variable real-world clinical data can be. Traditional 510K might not fully capture how algorithms can degrade or misinterpret data in diverse, unpredictable settings, which leads us neatly to the second critical trend, clinical validation gaps. The Lee study found a striking correlation here. Devices without reporting clinical validation had a higher recall rate per device, an average of 3.4 recalls, compared to just 1.9 or 2.0 for devices that did have validation, either retrospective or prospective.
Okay, so validation clearly helps reduce the chance of recall.
Yes, but here's the kicker. Those non-validated devices were also associated with significantly larger recalls. They affected an average of 12,193 units per recall versus only 6,523 units for validated devices.
Wow, double the scale of impact.
Roughly double. It strongly suggests that thorough clinical validation before market release is critical not just for reducing recall frequency, but also for limiting the sheer scale of the problem when issues do arise. It's a clear call to action for QRR teams. Push for robust, real-world clinical data upfront.
So skipping validation isn't just risking a recall, it's risking a massive recall. It's a huge takeaway. What else contributes to these risks?
The third major trend identified relates to manufacturer type. There's a really striking association with the status of the manufacturer specifically, publicly traded versus private companies. Publicly traded companies accounted for about 53% of all the artificial intelligence and machine learning-enabled devices studied. Okay, roughly half. But, and this is the key part, they were linked to a disproportionate 91.8% of the recalls.
Right.
And an almost unbelievable 98.7% of all recalled units.
98.7% of units from public companies. That's almost all of them.
Almost all of them. Now, this isn't necessarily direct judgment on their inherent quality processes, but it does strongly suggest potential investor-driven pressure for faster market launches. That speed-to-market imperative, especially in competitive sectors, might sometimes bypass some of the thorough pre-market clinical testing and validation that maybe privately held companies can prioritize differently. It ultimately seems to increase the risk profile.
That adds a whole other layer of complexity, the commercial pressures.
Exactly. And for quality and regulatory professionals, navigating those internal and external pressures while upholding safety standards, well, it's a constant tightrope walk.
These really are insights that everyone in quality, regulatory, and risk needs to internalize. It's not just about the tech itself, is it? It's the whole ecosystem. So for those of you listening, what does all this mean for your daily work? What's the path forward?
Well, if we connect these specific insights back to the bigger picture, the implications are pretty clear and actionable across the medtech ecosystem. First, for manufacturers, and that includes many of you listening who are directly responsible here, this really calls for strengthening software lifecycle controls, fundamentally. It means implementing far more robust validation strategies, especially putting more emphasis on that pre-market clinical testing, which the data clearly shows is protective. And it definitely demands enhancing post-market monitoring, moving beyond just basic incident reporting to truly proactive vigilance, building quality in, not just testing for it at the end.
And what about the regulatory bodies themselves? What's the message for them?
For regulators, there seems to be a clear need to prioritize oversight, particularly for these high-volume imaging and therapy devices where we see the bulk of the recalls. The sources we looked at suggested things like potentially requiring a prospective evaluation for certain artificial intelligence and machine learning devices, or even issuing time-limited clearances that lapse if confirmatory post-market data isn't provided, pushing for more rigor, basically.
Okay. And clinicians?
For clinicians on the front lines, the takeaway seems to be keep validating artificial intelligence results against your own deep clinical judgment. Artificial intelligence is a powerful assistant, no doubt, but it's not yet a replacement for human expertise, especially in high-risk situations. A healthy clinical skepticism remains vital.
Makes sense. Trust but verify.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, for patients. They stand to benefit hugely from this innovation, of course, but our analysis shows they remain vulnerable, especially to these cascading failures in widely deployed devices affecting thousands. Their safety has to be the ultimate goal guiding all of this.
Absolutely. So for you, our listeners, the quality, regulatory, and risk professionals understanding these specific trends is key. The early recall rates, the validation gaps, the impact of market pressures, the common reasons like software flaws or data integrity. It's not just academic. It's absolutely vital for developing proactive, effective strategies in your daily work. This isn't just about reacting. It's about anticipating and ideally preventing these issues. So what's the bottom line here? Our deep dive into artificial intelligence and machine learning-enabled device recalls shows us that while these technologies are truly transformative, they definitely aren't without vulnerabilities. The majority of recalls seem to stem from complex software design issues, often amplified by automation, and, exacerbated by those critical gaps in clinical validation. We've also seen how market pressures, particularly for publicly traded companies, might play a role, perhaps pushing for speed over exhaustive pre-market diligence sometimes. The good news remains. Most recalls are Class 2, but the sheer volume of units sometimes affected and how early many recalls happen signals a clear, urgent need for improved practices all around.
Which leads us to a final important question for you, our listener, to really consider. Could a more robust approach, maybe something like the pharmacovigilance systems we use for drugs, applied to post-market surveillance for these artificial intelligence devices, could that truly improve how we identify and reduce errors? Could it move us beyond just compliance, towards genuine proactive risk mitigation? And thinking about your own role, what tangible steps can you take within your sphere of influence to champion enhanced pre-market clinical testing and more vigilant post-market surveillance for these critical technologies? Technologies that are, let's face it, literally shaping the future of healthcare.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this exploration empowers you to navigate the complexities of artificial intelligence in medtech with greater insight, confidence, and hopefully a clearer path towards strengthening patient safety.